Hello, my name is Jared Morris, and this is Settled Christianity, coming back at you with the conclusion of the series that we've been going on to for the last few weeks, looking at the different systems of soteriology, but basically the different ways of looking at salvation, God bringing people salvation. As a conclusion, I want to say that all of these different systems agree on how people get saved. We come to God through the faith that He gives us, and by the grace that He has for us, or has towards us, so to say. Now, obviously, some will disagree if that's a free will choice, as Arminians or Molinists say, or even traditionalists say, or is this is a determined choice, such as Calvinists will say. But I would like to say that I don't really see any of these systems I disagree with as heretical systems, as like these are systems that are leading people to hell. Now, obviously, there are extremities on all of these systems that, if taken too far, will distort the gospel. I want to go in. This is not really in-depth biblical look at these systems, but this is a look more or less about just surface level issues that would make somebody want to go with one system or another. I'm going to do separate videos probably later on. I'm going to take a break from this after this, but I want to take a more biblical look at a later time. Right now, this is just surface things, of pros and cons from each system. So all the way back to Arminianism. So what are the pros and cons? Um, so obviously the pros is that it protects human freedom really well. Arminian theologians have traditionally been champions of human freedom and human responsibility to God and the evil that they commit. Oh, bless me, I'm sorry. And then, so what's the bad side? So Arminianism, they champion free will. The bad side is that if taken too far, Arminianism will do damage to God's sovereignty. There's the most extreme version of this, which is open theism. The belief that God doesn't actually know what's going to happen in the future. The idea that God isn't really in control of what's happening. And this is a risk that Calvinists point out many times, but it's a very real risk that Arminians are aware of and that many believe can be avoided. And I believe that it can be avoided, but we should not focus, Arminians should not focus so much on human freedom that they forget God's sovereignty, God's power, and his ability to run his universe as he wants. Um, so obviously, the next up is Calvinism, which is almost the exact opposite. The pros is a big focus on God's sovereignty, a big focus on many times God's glory, but many times a downplaying of human responsibility. This is actually one of the big critiques of Calvinism, is that they lay the responsibility of evil not at the feet of man, but at the feet of God. Not because man does not freely choose to commit evil. It is God that guides humanity to committing these evil. And Calvinists will argue that this is for his glory, for his big picture of the universe. But it's still a point that Arminians point out with Calvinists many times. And once again, I think that this system, I personally believe the system has the most flaws in it. I think this is one that is more plausible than the other critiques. The idea that under Calvinism, God is responsible for evil. I do believe that this is a better critique of Calvinism than the other critiques I'll bring up in this video. But this is, the pros and cons of Calvinism. That it focuses on God's glory and God's sovereignty, His power, but many times downplays man's responsibility, both to salvation but also to sin many times, and lays sin at God's feet. Next up, we have Molinism. And now, Molinism, the pros, I believe, is not only that it protects God's sovereignty and man's free will, but that it's really open to different views. There are many Molinists who are more Calvinistic in flavor. There's some that's more Arminian in flavor. Um, the idea is that there are many different variations of Molinism. Molinism is more of just a simple system that can be applied to really any theological type. and this is a big benefit. There's it can be open to drawing in many people. I actually believe, looking at it, that Calvinists might be more open to Molinism than Arminians are. But surprisingly, many people who are Molinists are lean more Arminian. And it's just funny that way. But the biggest con of Molinism is that it's mostly a philosophical system, not really a theological one. Uh, you find that there's just not that many verses that we can really draw out these deep philosophical principles that Molinism is based on. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that it's mostly extra biblical, a helpful way of looking at a helpful system that can be applied to soteriology. Now, once again, that some people are more open to that than others, but there's a lot of people who are just turned off of Molinism, mostly because it is a system seemingly less based on the Bible, and more based on philosophical ideas. And we'll get more into that later. I think that it's a philosophical system trying to connect multiple biblical points to its benefit, but it's still a philosophical system. And finally, we have traditionalism. And, the bias here, obviously, is that this is something that I would classify myself as somebody who is a traditionalist. And the benefit is I believe that it gives good, strong reasons to find a midpoint between Calvinism and Arminianism. It gives a good balance between God's sovereignty and also man's freedom, where God is in charge, but by being God, he has allowed us to have a part in this salvation. I'm not saying that we work towards salvation, but that he has given us a free choice to accept or deny the gift that he's given us. Now, obviously, one of the biggest downsides is that there's just not many people who hold to this view. Now, there's more than you'd suspect. That I know the Southern Baptist Convention signed a article of several hundred people saying, yes, we are defined as traditionalists, but still, if you look in the last 100 years, the arguments and views of traditionalism has been almost completely lost to time. It's a view held by very few vocal theologians. Now, there are many that still hold to it. There are many that believe that way, but they just don't ever think about really systemizing that belief. And because of that, it leads to it being a very ignored system of theology. Um, but I still think that it provides the most reasonable and biblical answers for all of these questions. And now this video is kind of getting long, so I'm just going to go ahead and shut it off. I hope you enjoyed this study, and we're going to be doing just a few more solo episodes or single episodes coming up in the few weeks. Be on the lookout for my wife's videos. She's been doing really well. I've really enjoyed them, and I think she's enjoyed doing them. And I hope that you've gotten something from it. If you've enjoyed this, please share with friends. Please like the videos. Please subscribe for more. Once again, this is Jared Morris with Settled Christianity, helping you continue in the faith.